Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today we have a very exciting video. We are taking a look at Brooks Koepka's Golf Swing. Now this is actually a video I've been requested to make by a few different people, so if there are any other golf swings you want me to take a look at or any other videos you want me to make, just comment down below and let me know. I'd love to know exactly what kind of content you most enjoy on my channel, and obviously make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel as well. So let's dive in and let's start taking a look at Brooks Koepka's Golf Swing. Now obviously Brooks has kind of gone through ups and downs. He's had huge highs of winning a bunch of majors and then lows of being injured and not playing for long periods of time. So he does have a very interesting golf swing. There are some things I would recommend about his golf swing to the average player to try and copy, but there are other things which I would definitely say not to copy, and I will be diving into that in a little bit more detail as well. So let's dive straight in. We're going to first take a look at an iron swing, then we're going to dive into his driver swing. We've got a bunch of really good slow motion swings to look at. So let's take a look at this swing first of all. Now don't be alarmed, he is hitting a hickory shaft here with an iron, but it's not going to change his technique or anything. So I believe it's a 7 iron he's hitting here, and as we take the club back, he keeps the face very, very close, good neutral with his spine, perfect position there, good triangle with his arms and chest, good turn. He's really loading into the ground, you can see already. He has a lot of knee bend in that, in his right leg, and he pretty much keeps this in the backswing. There are other players who have less knee bend. Tiger Woods certainly has a lot less knee bend in his right leg in the backswing, especially at the top. But Brooks really loads into the ground and keeps this kind of flex in his right knee. As he takes it to the top, he's going to bend that right elbow and kind of take the club, almost picking it straight up over his right shoulder. He does have that bowed wrist. If we pause it at the top here, he does have that bowed left wrist, and this is definitely one thing I would recommend not to copy for the average golfer. First of all, it's given Brooks a ton of wrist problems. He's had surgeries on his wrist and been out of the game for really long periods of time. And, you know, he could really get a debilitating injury from that wrist and almost never be able to play golf again. So I definitely wouldn't recommend that. There are other things I'm definitely not going to recommend when we take a look at a front-on angle. You can't quite see them as well from this angle. Let's talk for a second about how Brooks generates power. You can see he's very coiled up with his spine and hips. He's really turned to the top, and it looks like he's in a very athletic position with that knee bend really pushing into the ground. But he's created other levers for power. For example, if we look at his right arm and his right elbow, it is very, very, very flexed. He has a lot of bend in that right elbow, and that is one thing that's going to create a lot of power when he's really hinging it and then releasing it back down into the golf ball, as well as obviously a big hip and shoulder turn, loading into the ground with the legs, lower body and knees, etc. So as he starts to swing down, he really shallows. He has a great shallowing motion of the golf club if we take it slowly as he starts to swing down, but Brooks stays on top of the golf ball very well. He hits down on the golf ball quite a lot, and if we pause it parallel to the ground, he has the club in a very closed position, and his spine and chest are very, very over the ball. He has that right elbow tucked in and a good triangle of kind of, you can see the grass there, good triangle of daylight between the left arm, right arm and chest. And this is something a lot of golf coaches talk about for being a sign of a good ball striker, is when they have that kind of triangle keeping themselves over the ball like this. But Brooks doesn't have a hugely rotational golf swing. He hits down on the ball quite a lot. It's a very different swing to someone maybe like a Matthew Wolff, who really shallows it out, rotates really hard. But Brooks is much more of a vertically inclined golf swing. He kind of hits down on the ball. His shaft and his swing plane is much more upright. And that's good for some things, but not good for other things. It's good because it allows him to really compress the ball with his irons. And, you know, overall he has a pretty straight ball flight, but it's not going to be so great maybe with some of the longer clubs, and this can be why we see Brooks really become a bit erratic with the driver sometimes. Like when he's driving it well, he's obviously a great driver of the golf ball. He hits the golf ball very, very far, but he's not one of the straightest drivers of the golf ball, and this is definitely a reason why. So as he comes down into impact, if we pause it at impact, it is a good impact position. His chest and hips are open, but there's not a huge amount of rotation there. We can also see, if you see the wrinkles in the right side of his shirt, we can tell there is some flexing in the spine, some kind of lateral flexing, which I personally don't like to see because it puts a lot of strain and pressure stretching through the left side of the spine if he's flexing to the right. I like to see a very, very neutral spine position like Bryson DeChambeau. Even though he hits the ball so hard, he does at impact have a very neutral spine position, great posture. And as we see Brooks start to slowly swing through, if we pause it here, he gets himself into kind of an awkward position where the hips and shoulders have kind of stalled and he's getting more lateral flexing of the spine with, you can see it in the creases of his shirt. And, you know, this is a really good indication. You can look at yourself when you're videoing your golf swing. If you want to tell how your spine's moving, just look at the creases in your shirt. It's a very good indication of which way your spine is moving and flexing. So it kind of looks very awkward. He's almost like swinging up underneath himself, and there's not too much more turn through as he comes through to that finished position here. And it is a nice balanced finished position, but it just looks a bit awkward after impact. So as we take it now, let's take it to a driver swing. We'll have a look at driver down the line, and then we'll have a look at driver from front on as well. So as we take a look at this, we'll just play it through once and then we'll take it a little bit slower. We can kind of see, obviously it's a very, very similar swing. Very, very upright swing plane, if you like to call it that. It's, you know, let's take it back and let's really slow it down and take a look. So there's going to be some similarities obviously with iron swing, but there'll be a few differences as well. As Brooks takes the club away, I do like his takeaway, keeps it very low to the ground, pulls it parallel to the ground. Club head is outside of the hands, like to see that. Face is kind of almost really more closed than his spine angle, which is quite a good thing to see. I mean, keeping that face square for as long as you can. Really wide takeaway as well, love that. Big hip and shoulder turn, he's already starting to turn those coiling up. We're going to see as well, he's going to keep that flexion in the right knee, and then as he takes it to the top, going to see this right elbow really start to bend. Obviously Brooks is a very, very strong guy, and you know, this is a golf swing of someone who really muscles the golf ball. Yeah, as we take it to the top, he, you know, pulls it there, hugely coiled up at the top, quite a long swing. He's definitely getting past parallel there. You know, those arms are, that hand position is above his shoulder plane here. Another way he's kind of creating power, having a bit of a longer swing, swinging up above that shoulder plane. Then he's really able to pull the hands down and really generate that power, have a little bit of a longer golf swing. And, you know, this also shows how upright his swing is as well, because if we look at some of the most upright golf swings like Justin Thomas, you know, again, he gets those hands much higher than the shoulder plane, and then he has to drop them back down and down into the golf ball. So an upright golf swing will allow you to compress the golf ball, but it will be much easier for you to get come over the top and come quite steep down onto the golf ball. So this may be something to think about. And if you're vice versa, if you keep your hands very low to the ground, very kind of well below your shoulder plane, it might be easier for you to get under plane. So things to bear in mind when you're having a look at your own golf swing. But he's a very athletic guy, very athletic position here. Big hip, big shoulder turn, knees flexed, really loaded into that right heel, that right leg, using the ground really, really well. Now he's going to start to shallow out the golf club. Arms are going to start to drop, hands are going to drop as the club shallows and flattens a little bit. He keeps that face square if we pulls it parallel to the ground. I mean, I like a lot about this position, but you can see how high his hands and the club are away from the ball. Now, if we looked at someone like Matthew Wolff in this position, his hands and the club would be so much lower to the ground, which would enable him to really rotate through the golf ball and also to hit up with his driver. Obviously, this is a driver you really kind of preferably would like to hit up on the ball with it. Brooks doesn't, he hits down on the ball a little bit. And, you know, as we play it through to impact, he's almost going to compress the ball. It's kind of similarly like he does with an iron. And if we pause it at impact, I mean, it is a great impact position. I would actually say his spine angle and posture looks a bit better here, which is kind of weird to say. You know, you'd think actually with the added speed of a driver, it would make your posture worse. It certainly does for me. But he's created a good amount of space and room. Hips and shoulders are very well cleared. Right elbows very tucked into the body. Very athletic position. I'm not too keen on how high his right toe is off the floor. It is very, very off the floor. And he has a lot of pressure into his left side, which is going to help him really rotate through the golf ball and deliver that power that he's created with the coil and using the ground into the golf ball now. As he starts to swing through, weirdly, his posture looks a lot better here than it does with the irons. He doesn't look quite as cramped for room. and but he does kind of rotate the face quite hard and quite open, but a good balanced takeaway. I'd actually say his swing here, it looks like maybe it was taken at a slightly different time to the iron swing. I would say his swing looks a lot better hitting this driver. I don't really know the timeline of when this was taken compared to the iron swing, but it's a lot, in my opinion, it looks a better golf swing to the iron swing that we just saw. So now let's take a look at driver from front on, and then we'll wrap up and say, some of the things I recommend copying about this swing and some of the things maybe I don't. So I think this is from the PGA at Harding Park. It's a great look from front on. Let's slowly take the club back. Huge wide takeaway. I really like that. If we pause it parallel to the ground, you can see, what a good one-piece takeaway that is. This is something we talk about a lot with the elite players. Such a great one-piece takeaway. Brooks has a very, very wide stance with his feet with the driver, which is good for some people, but not so great for others, because it can make it a little bit more difficult to rotate, as it's kind of you're nearing the end ranges of your hips, hip mobility with your feet being so wide apart. So it can be good, can be bad. Anyway, he coils up to the top. He really loads into that right side. Like, he's actually shifted quite a lot onto that right side. If we pause it here at the top, club is almost pretty much perfectly parallel. You can see how much of his weight is on that right side, how he's kind of very much behind the golf ball, and he's going to shift his weight and kind of redistribute it to that left side as he starts to swing down. But it's a very, very athletic position. Again, you can also see from this position how closed that club face is with, that face really pointing up towards the sky. So as he starts to swing down, he's really going to shift his weight across. You can see that weight now going into that left leg as it starts to straighten. And if we pause it, let's pause it parallel to the ground again. And one of the things I don't personally like about his swing is Brooks doesn't have a very straight left arm. Now, I'm not saying your left arm has to be perfectly straight throughout the entire swing, but he has a huge amount of flexion in that left arm. And the problem is, if you have bend in your left arm, it's going to be more difficult to control the low point of the golf swing consistently, because you're going to, have either maybe some days more or less bend in that arm, whereas if it's closer to straight, that should be a more consistent swing arc. But this is a golf swing of someone who really muscles the golf ball. He spends a lot of time in the gym working on his body, building his strength, and you can kind of see that in his golf swing, that he actually creates a lot of the power. Yes, he uses the ground well, but he actually uses his upper body and his arms to generate a lot of power too. So as he swings down, if we pause it at impact, you can kind of see his head now and his spine angle is starting to move back a little bit. He looks kind of a little bit cramped, a little bit awkward, especially with that bend in the left arm. It doesn't immediately, to me, look like the swing of like a very, very elite golfer. But obviously, he does the things he does very well and consistently, which is why he's so elite. You can really see how much pressure is going through that left foot. And, how hard he's swinging. It looks like he's really swinging hard at this ball. As he starts to swing through, again, it's kind of an awkward arm position. Arms are kind of cramped for him as he starts to come through and eventually swing through to the finish. So, what do you guys think of this golf swing? Let's, briefly discuss it. There's a lot of good things he does in terms of matchups with his body and his golf swing and things. He obviously does them very, very consistently. It's not a swing I would personally look at and think, oh, I really wish I swung like that. Obviously I'd like to be able to hit the ball how he hits it, but I think for me, that golf swing would probably injure my body and really wreck my body quite a lot. Personally, from some of the injuries I've had before, I have had left wrist injuries from not even getting nearly as flexed as his left wrist is, and, other things. So I'm not sure I'd recommend some of those things. Definitely not the wrist position, definitely not the spine angle we saw with the iron swing. But I do like how he really loads and uses the ground in the backswing, and then he shifts that weight across in the downswing. In the down the line driver swing we took a look at, he created a lot of space, which was great to see, and had very, very good posture in that swing. He could maybe have a little bit more squat in the downswing. It almost looks like he loads up and uses the ground a lot in the backswing, but maybe doesn't use it as well in the downswing as he could. Maybe could have a little bit more shallowing, a little bit lower hands as he swings down, and a little bit more rotation as well, kind of more similar to like a Bryson or a Matthew Wolff. So Anyway, he's a great player. He does things very, very well. He hits the ball super, super impressively. And, you know, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, taking a look at his golf swing. Make sure you comment your thoughts below on his swing, and also let me know what other future videos you'd like to see me making. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and as always, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Rip it and rip it.